Hello everybody, today I'm going to review what I think are my top 10 weapons for the upcoming DLC Beyond Light. I hope you enjoy them. Divinity is the weapon you get after completing its questline. I also believe it is a good weapon as it can make your target weaker the longer you hold its beam onto it, which is great in case you need the extra DPS. The reason this is at number 10 is because in Beyond Light, I just don't believe it will be very effective as it's just a weapon with a weakening buff. And it may damage them over time when you hold it onto them, but I just think there are better weapons to use than this. Izanaki's Burden is the weapon you get after completing the Lock and Key questline. It is also a good weapon. With the Catalyst, it can do more damage when you consume the 4 bullets. However, in Beyond Light, where it is just fallen, there may be times where Izanaki is useless against them, just like Izanaki is useless to Riven. However, it is still a good weapon, and it can be used for DPS of bosses, but when it is against normal fallen enemies, it won't be as effective. The reason that Izanaki takes number 9 in this list is because there are just better weapons that can be used instead of Izanaki. Now, 1000 Voices is a personal favorite of mine, as it can do damage with its laser and shoot explosions behind it. This weapon is very useful against big crowds of enemies, however its downside is that it can kill you very easily if you get too close to its beam. The reason it takes number 8 on this spot is because of the damage it can do. The damage is not bad, but I believe that Anarchy and other weapons can do better damage than this. However, I would still say this is a fun weapon, and I may find people using this in Beyond Light. Terrabah might actually be the new Recluse, due to its unique perk Ravenous Beast. The only reason it takes number 7 on this spot is because of its downside, where every time you put the weapon away, any sort of power that you put inside the weapon will just be gone. If Bungie can fix that, then this weapon would definitely be higher, but for now, it will stay at number 7. Wither Horde is the most effective weapon to use in big crowds of enemies, as its unique perk will blight the ground and any enemy that stands in the blight will continuously take damage. There really isn't any downside other than the reload speed and the weapon damage. Now, back when this weapon was still busted, it can one-hit any raid boss, but when the glitch got patched, the damage is just not really good anymore. The reload speed is also terrible, so that's the reason this is at number 6. If they fix the reload speed, then this weapon may be higher, but for now, it will stay at number 6. Now, Outbreak Perfect is possibly one of the most powerful weapons. With the Catalyst, when enemies die with 9H attached to them, more 9H will spawn. This weapon has only one downside, where this weapon may no longer be attainable after the season ends. DPS of bosses and raid bosses with this weapon is pretty good. With the Catalyst, it can actually melt certain bosses. The Catalyst makes it so when 9H attached to bosses, their weapon damage will increase. The reason this is at number 5 is because I believe that other weapons can do better damage. However, I will be using this in Beyond Light as the damage is just amazing. Trinity Ghoul is currently my best weapon for clearing out enemies. As with the Catalyst, any final blow with this weapon will allow its next shot to have chain arc damage, so many enemies can die with a single shot. The only downside with Trinity is its DPS. When you fight bosses and or raid bosses, this weapon is pretty terrible, even with a Divinity on them. This weapon does not do a lot of damage, so when fighting bosses, it's recommended to not use it and only use it on regular enemies. The reason this is at number 4 is because the DPS is bad and it's only useful for clearing out huge groups of enemies. The Fourth Horseman may actually be the new meta, as for some reason this thing is pretty busted. It's alright with regular enemies, but I wouldn't waste the ammo on them. This weapon can do major damage to the bosses when you hold it on the trigger and use the 4 bullets. Downside of this weapon is no longer attainable, as it was only attainable in Season of the Worthy. This weapon is at number 3 due to the damage it does and because of the firing speed. Anarchy is another personal favorite of mine because of the damage it can do. Combined with their other weapons is pretty good. The arc traps that shoot out will last for about 11 to 12 seconds, causing damage over time. When they explode, they will do additional damage. So after they explode, always remember to add 2 additional arc traps. Now when you fire, switch to another weapon and keep shooting so you can get additional damage in there. Its damage is very, very powerful against bosses and even raid bosses. So make sure you save your ammo for them and not use it on regular enemies. Downside that this weapon may no longer be attainable in Beyond Light, so get it while you still can. Other than that, it's very effective. Anarchy takes number 2 in this list, as this is the best weapon used for DPS of bosses, and it can clear out big groups of enemies. Risk Runner is possibly the best weapon to use in Beyond Light. Reason is because of its perk, Arc Conductor, where you take less incoming arc damage, and when you take arc damage, Risk Runner become more powerful, along with its additional perk, Super Conductor, where killing enemies with Arc Conductor is active has a chance to return ammo, along with having chain lightning damage. Downside is that the Fallen in this DLC may not deal arc damage, and if they don't, then Risk Runner will become useless in Beyond Light. If they do deal arc damage, then Risk Runner may actually become the new Recluse. Why this takes number 1 spot is because the Fallen use arc damage, and this weapon's perk activate when you take arc damage. And that is my top 10 weapon for Beyond Light. I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. And if you want to see more top 10s, then let me know in the comments down below. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.